Since we've already done the Pledge of Allegiance, I'm gonna move to, roll call for the formal meeting. And, Rebecca, again, welcome. I'm glad to have you here. If you could take the roll call for this meeting, please.
Wait, Sandy Smith,
Present.
Scott Dorman,
Here.
Brian Leahy,
Present.
Jeff Robbins,
Here.
and John Smith.
Here.
All right, have you all had an opportunity to take a look at the agenda for the regular meeting tonight?
Yes.
And do you have any questions, concerns, comments about the agenda? I'd like to have a motion, please, to approve the agenda for tonight's meeting.
I'll make the motion to approve the agenda for tonight's meeting.
May I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ryan. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, no. The motion carried. And I'll open it now to public comment. Any comments?
Mr. Mayor,
Mayor, would you like to say anything? We welcome you. We're glad you're
I
here.
appreciate all the great work and dedication you all do always. And I will listen with great attention to your topic.
Thank you. All right, there being no further public comment, unless anybody has their hand raised, Rebecca, you want to see?
Nope.
Okay. Then I will turn now to item 6 on the agenda, which is approval of the minutes. I do want to note that I think a change needs to be made. The word draft was not removed from the header. So I believe that needs to be removed before they can be signed. And so I would suggest that change be made, and I am addressing, probably Rebecca on
Yeah.
that issue.
Yep.
And then, I'll ask any of you, have all of you had a chance to review the minutes of the March 23rd, 2026 board meeting?
yes. Yes.
Does anyone have any, besides the draft issue in the header, does anyone have any comments, concerns, changes to the minutes? Then I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes from the March 23, 2026 board meeting. May I have a-
Motion to approve the minutes for the March 23rd, 2026 meeting.
May I have a second, please?
Second that.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. The motion carried. All right, I'll turn now to item 7A, financial matters and the treasurer's report.
We have Ben here this evening to kind of go over the finances with him, so I'll let him go over those. I was a part of all of the bill paying and I reviewed all of the documentation. It does, what I saw go through this last month does reflect well in the reports that are in front of you.
Well, thank you. Thank you, board chair, members of the board. If you could scroll down to, I think it's the, next page. Perfect. So a couple of items, one to kind of point out to you guys as a board. You'll notice the month of March, we were 225,000 over budget from a revenue perspective. That was made up of actually timing on our property tax revenue. So you'll see there under tax revenue was 217,000 over budget. 240,000 of that was down to property tax revenue. That doesn't mean that you'll receive more property tax revenue for the year, but it does say that the county collected more in the month of March and gave more to us in the month of March than we've seen historically. And then on the non-tax revenue, we were 7,922 over budget. I will point out in the tax revenue piece, we were actually under budget from a sales tax perspective in the month. But when we get to year to date, you can see all the way over there where it says 108,000 variance year to date. It's now actually flipped than what we saw in the month of March. So our property tax revenue is slightly lower than we thought it would be year to date, actually 100,000 under, but our sales tax and our 1A both are over budget by about 220. So for the month, there was one trend. Year to date, that trend has been different. We're only 3 months through the year, so obviously there's no huge trends yet, but that's what we're seeing year to date. And then on the expense side of things, for the month, we were 19,000 over budget. Trending pretty close to budget on most of our line items in the month of March. You'll see managerial is pretty significantly over budget. I would like to tell you it was accounting, but it was not, it was legal. That put us significantly over budget in the month of March. That trend also carries through, you'll see on year to date, we're 147,000 under. Again, most line items are trending under budget. Really, the only thing that I'm seeing is trending over budget is our legal expense. Legal expense is 36,000 over budget, year to date. And like I said, on the revenue, sales tax is over budget, property tax is slightly under budget, but that's typically down to timing. I expect that to catch up. And would happily answer any questions you may have. I was asked actually a question, before we started, so, miscellaneous revenue is rolled up into our non-tax revenue. You'll actually see if you scroll further down, you don't need to, but in your reports, we actually have the expanded report. Miscellaneous revenue was over for the month, is over year to date. That's made up of a reimbursement on a grant. John, I don't know if you can kind of expand on that a little bit. That was the one from the university. You said
CWBG grant.
that, what he just said there. That was the majority of the variance that we saw in the month of March. And then I need to do a little more research on the year to date, but it sounds like some of that may be some funds that were given to us for impact fee. And if that does hold true, we need to move it into impact fees. But that is why we're over on miscellaneous. It was just 3 transactions. But we'll happily answer any more questions you guys may have.
Any further questions? Do we know why the legal fees are going over still?
Well,
Well, I understand all the policy review and the bylaw review and all the code,
I don't.
Chief's description.
the chief's description. We've done all, we've had a lot of work, so I expect that should probably settle down once we get through the chief selection process, but and the
So-
policy
So we
review.
did budget 50,000. So you have 2,900 more to spend for the year.
2009.
Yeah.
I'll make sure to let our attorneys know that. Take a contingency.
Work faster.
Go faster.
And I know there was some discussion earlier. Did want to point out, we do have budgeted around 140,000 that's going into reserves. That we budgeted this year. So that is something that you could theoretically use if you wanted for legal fees. It just means there'd be less money going into reserves.
Okay, so moving on then to the paid bills. I'll turn that to Ryan.
Paid bills are in the packet from on page 26 to page 29. Has everybody had a chance to review those? Board packet?
I do, but I don't understand. A lot of them don't have any information as far as what the check is written for. Just the general journal and bill and pay a bunch of money, and I don't know what it was written.
And that's definitely a balance that we're working on. I see them as they come through bill.com. So the chief reviews them first and authorizes them, and then I do. So I'm able to go through and see every invoice. We did expand this, so you guys see a little bit more of what. But I know that we're trying to get a balance of the information presented, so it's not too much, but it's enough to answer any questions. So if there's specific questions, like earlier, it looks like earlier on in the month, there was some transactions that don't have the name of where it was going.
I'd like the fund transfer for $50,000. Or what is that?
That's
So
gonna be.
I do,
Yes, the fund transfer is us taking money from, so if you scroll down, it's basically us taking money from one of our accounts and moving it in. So you can see the 50,000 and then moving the 50,000 to be able to pay. So Bill.com pulls money, so Bill.com is our accounts payable system. And I actually think it's a fantastic system. I wish I designed it myself. I didn't. I'd be sat on the beach if I did. But what it does is it allows, what most people used to do from an accounts payable process is if they did it the right way, is you get a receipt, an invoice, right? You look at the invoice, somebody would say, okay, we've received what this invoice says, somebody would sign off on it. It would then go to the decision makers or the board, who would then have a check or that invoice. You would check the invoice to make sure that it had the right amount, the same check, go into the right person and somebody's approved it. You would then sign the check. Bill.com does that, but electronically. So you can't forge a signature, you can't get a stamp, you can't wash the check. Electronically, it can't get paid until you approve it to be paid. So the chief can't circumvent the people in the process to get it paid. So from an internal controls perspective, it's fantastic. In this regard, is what happens is it sends out, takes the money from your operating account, and then it sends out the checks. So we have to fund your operating account so that there's money in it, so that Bill.com can pull it and then send out the check.
That's the transfer.
Yeah, that's typically, and or payroll is the same reason why we do transfers. So we'll do a cash flow and say payroll is $50,000. Our accounts payable is $50,000. We have 20,000 in the account, so we need to transfer 80. And that's what the transfers are. It's moving money from some of your Colo Trust accounts. So if you scroll back up to the top onto the balance sheet for me. Keep going, it's the second page. Keep going. Well, that also shows it. Keep going. We'll do both. So those are your accounts. So CSafe typically has more interest, right, than your normal checking account. But you can't typically pay bills out of CSafe. You can't do payroll out of CSafe. So you have to move that money from CSafe to your Bank of Colorado checking account. So from like a personal standpoint, it'd be like having a savings account and then a bank that all of your bills come out of, but you have to pull out the savings so that you can fund your check.
So are all the funds that we receive and tax revenues and other funds then go into C-Safe or something like that?
Yeah, so
saves until we pull it out.
Correct. And so if you scroll down to the next page, the page after. So go in. Yeah, thank you. So this page, so in Arizona, actually by statute, you have to see this. This is a showing that we're doing the reconciliation for you. So you have the beginnings, you can still see right as I'm leaving on your chair.
Yeah.
Sorry. You have the beginning balance that comes straight from the statement. And then you have your checks and payments, your deposits and credits, of which the transfers will be hitting that, depending on which way it's going. And then you have your cleared balance, and then you have your registered balance. So cleared balance is what you'll be seeing on the bank statement. And then if there are any uncleared transactions, somebody's got to check that they haven't actually cashed. That's where you see on the uncleared $4,027. And that's what you will match to your balance sheet. So this will match to the page we were just showing. This is the balance sheet numbers that you'll be seeing. This is the number you'll see directly on your bank statement. Well, actually, you'll see this in the and these are the transfers. And checks.
Okay.
That was probably the most long-winded answer ever.
Board,
Maybe a shorter answer would be, how about I get the memo a little longer for you? Does that work?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think what I was trying to address is you have some very good internal controls. And you asking the questions is another great internal controls, but Bill.com has some great internal controls and there's multiple people checking everything that's happening.
Is there a way, however, if you go back to looking at all the individual
Yep.
transactions,
Uh-huh.
so we have the name, but in memo, it doesn't really tell us a whole lot about what it was. So
Yeah, and
I think, it's like, why did,
so if you keep scrolling down, because I think these are bad examples, keep going,
yeah, I see.
keep going. So here where you're seeing, so this is more. Above you're seeing kind of the transferring of the money. This is actually where you can see a little bit more, I think, detail, a little. Right, at least you can see the vendor names.
Mhm.
But
But it doesn't
this,
say.
but exactly, I know what SCAGs is, I think most, but you probably maybe don't. So we need to make sure that when we're doing this, so when you're looking at Bill.com, you see every detail. I don't actually know, and I need to find out how we change that.
But
So
that was the question.
Well, yeah, so I'm 99% sure it can be, but because it gets imported from Bill.com to QuickBooks.
See, even one word would be helpful,
I agree,
right?
I agree with you
It
completely.
doesn't need to be a big
Like
description.
equipment or like clothing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's
clothing,
what-
or whatever.
That's what Skaggs
Yeah,
is.
Right, no, I know it's gagged, but
Yeah.
that, again, that, I only picked it because it was the first thing, I saw that I could actually make an example out of it
Yeah.
as opposed to someone's payroll.
yeah.
Um, so that's the thing, is if we even had just one word where we kind of can flip through it and see, okay, clothing, and then we see something that, oh, what's that? If there is such a what's that in our review at any given point, which there wasn't for me in this, but it would be helpful to know.
So I don't know the answer, but I will do everything I can to get that added for you.
Okay, thank you.
The other bit that may be worth considering is, a lot of districts that I work with, multiple members of the board have access to bill.com. So if that is something else that you'd like to look into, then that's what it's there for. It's for you as board members to see, what did I pay the James Vincent Group and what was their last 5 invoices? Right, or what did we pay Skaggs? And so you can see, instead of you having to come to the office to ask to see the files, they're all electronic. So that's another thing that you could do if you wanted to.
I would think that would be good as long as we didn't have edit capacity that.
Yeah,
we couldn't do
exactly.
anything.
Well, I
Oh, we
think
can-
particularly the budget committee members ought to have that access.
Yeah, I mean,
Sure.
I think it's a great thing for any
Yeah.
board member that wants it, if not all, to have it.
Yeah,
You don't all
anyone
have
who
to
wants.
look, but you having the ability to look, I think is a great internal control.
I
I'm
agree.
sure that Chief or I would also be able to walk you through any of the bills.com stuff if you guys have questions.
Yeah.
Okay,
Open up
I mean,
anyways.
if we look at the detail,
Yeah,
all right.
we're always asking, we're in there now.
So I think that any board member that would like to be on bills.com, sort of reach out to maybe Rebecca. And she can coordinate with them and get you on, okay?
Yeah.
But in, at a minimum, the budget committee ought to do it. Okay,
perfect.
all right, so any further questions about the paid bills? All right, then I'll entertain a motion to approve the transactions listed on the paid bills report from the treasurer. I have that motion, please.
I'll move to approve the paid bills transactions as presented by Ryan today.
May I have a second, please? Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. Motion carried. All right, we're gonna move on to discussion. This is 7B, discussion action, Ray Fire Chief finalist. This is, something that, Chief Jones wanted, on the agenda for this evening for good reason. I'll let him go ahead and explain to you why.
What this item is in the past, chief recruitment, then we did the open recruitment. We provided, for expenses for the finalists that we brought into town. I believe Miranda told me it was airfare and
Cars
lodging.
and lodging.
Our consultants suggest that we reimburse for airfare, lodging, and rental car for finalist candidates and spouse. And we hadn't done that in the past, so we're asking approval to go ahead and do that at this time. We estimate that cost to be between $7,500 and $12,500, depending on how many we have. Obviously, if we have a candidate that doesn't require airfare because they're Denver Metro, well, that's, savings right there. So we just are asking for the ability to reimburse for those costs.
All right, so I'll open it for discussion to any board members. Have any questions about this?
I would just say that that's pretty standard. And, in any corporate environment, if you're having a chief, a potential chief executive officer coming in to interview for a position, you pay for his airfare, you pay for his hotel, you pay for his rental car, or you go and pick him up, and you also pay per diem for his meals.
Our consultant doesn't suggest the meals. They said that usually is on their own, at least the ones that they deal with, although we pay for some meals as part of
Understood.
as part of the day.
Any further discussion on this? So I have a comment on this. I think that it makes perfect sense to pay for spouses, particularly if we're asking people to reside in the district if they do not presently. Because we would want the spouse to come and see the community in which they would become a member. And grow to love it as we do. So I think it's pretty important that spouses be, not only come with the candidate, but also have an opportunity to visit the community and see things. And so I think it's a good idea.
I agree.
Any other comments? All right, then I'll entertain a motion to approve paying the cost of airfare, lodging and rental car for finalist candidates and their spouses for candidates for fire chief and their spouses. You want me to restate that?
One question is, the airfare though is limited to not first class, but general.
You know, I didn't ask that question, but I'm assuming so.
Okay,
We're not gonna go first class.
well, we want to make sure.
Let's make sure that that's specified. Yeah, and in fact, we can make the motion to approve paying the cost of coach airfare, lodging, and a
Right.
rental car, but do we want to say something about being budget or mid-size or small size or?
No,
Okay, just reasonably priced rental car for both the fire chief finalist candidates and their spouses. May I have that motion? May I have a second, please? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. The motion carried. All right, the next item for discussion stems from our working session this afternoon. Discussion action, right, financial independence project. So the issue here is whether we, as a board, want to give staff any direction or take any other action related to the financial independence discussion we had during our working session. One thing that I think we did, we discussed, and I think now want to carry that discussion here into the board meeting, is whether to give staff the direction to retain a consultant to advise us in connection with the possibility of pursuing financial independence in the context or in the course of the November 2026 election, at least to give us advice on whether that's feasible, practicable, or even something that's a good idea. So I'll open that for discussion. And of course, if any of you remember something additional to that coming out of that working session, raise it. But let's start with that one and then we can move to that other one next.
Yeah, I'd like to see what the consultants think. Putting out 2026. I just, I don't think that. I don't vote down the fire department like when they show up, so I think it would be to our advantage and also not that that part of it really matters, but it'd be to the advantage of the town as well to know sooner than later about their funding as well as us know sooner than later about ours. And I don't know, I think it's a good idea to get it in 26 if the consultant thinks it's a good idea to get it in 26.
I do have a request then, if you move forward with this, is allowing us to do a really quick administrative RFP to make that happen. You know, we have to, see whether we can do it under our current purchasing rules of my authority, so if you want to fast track this, we're not meeting again, you're not meeting again in June 1st.
Let me make a suggestion. Why don't, you have spoken to, I feel like I'm getting feedback here.
I've talked through.
You've talked to a number of consultants. I put an RFP out, obviously include those three and whoever else you think. Ask for responses within whatever period of time, and then let's have a special meeting before I take off for Europe on May 16th. So if we can call us, even if we do it by phone or Zoom or whatever, we can at least then identify a consultant that can then advise us in connection with us. It does seem that we need the advice sooner rather than later, given that we would be, doing a full court press if we were going to be doing this in November. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yeah, I'm in favor of getting information from the consultant and doing that, but I'm still feeling like we should wait till 2027 fall. I think because of what we talked about, with the fast tracking. And I think with a new chief coming on board and all of that and our budget, we don't have it budgeted for this year for all the expense, so. But I'd be willing to listen to the consultants.
Don't we have the 30, did someone say we had
The
$30,000 budgeted for this year for the election?
Up to 150,000.
Oh, well, that was over the course of 2 years. That was over the course of a full 2 years.
And won't we save quite a bit of money if we go on an even year because the county's already sending out? polls
Yes,
for
if we're doing it in November,
elections?
whether it's odd or even, I think if we do it in November, we share the cost of the county.
Okay.
So we could still do it in 27 in November and share the cost of the county. And Scott may be right, it may not make a lot of sense to do it, but we're only in April and it is, it is possible that they can say, that they'll say to us that, yeah, you can do it if you want to do it in this year. And there are obviously reasons that we discussed in our working session that make it potentially a very good idea to do that, given the fire risk stages that we're in now, given the fact that it's a very big election, we're gonna have much higher voter turnout. There are a variety of reasons why it might be a good idea to do it this year if we can, and if we can do it sensibly and responsibly and not have it be too rushed. And I think that's the question none of us can answer. None of us are experts on that.
We
so.
may, and if I do a quick RFP, it may come in cost within my spending authority. It could come in under our purchasing policy. Now, where you wouldn't require board action to.
I see. So if it does come in, we don't need a special meeting. If it comes in under your spending authority. Do we want to give him a special spending authority right now on this? And that way we obviate the need for a special,
Yeah, I think that'd be a good idea.
all right, what do we want that amount to be?
What do you think?
What is the current spend?
I'd have to go look, but the consultants told us $5,000 a month, so. I would say maybe 2 months of consultant time, the maximum is 2 months of consultant time.
So you'd want $10,000 in
$10,000.
spending authority. I think that's something we could do. Does anybody disagree with that?
That's good.
All right, so,
And
yes,
may have to have a special board meeting in May anyway, to even consider this. If we're gonna move forward, you need to have this information.
we do.
Quickly.
Yeah, we do need the information quickly. So see how fast they can turn
Yes.
around. And I mean, the phones work in Europe, it's just the time difference, so I can always participate from there if necessary. Computer works. Okay, so I think I need 2 motions. First is to instruct the staff to put out an RFP, what did I just say? To put out an RFP, I'm sorry, I'm tired, to various consultants, to advise the board in connection with the feasibility of pursuing financial independence through an election in November 2026. The second motion will be to extend the chief's spending authority in connection solely with the RP process to $10,000 from his current spending limits. May I have the first motion, please?
I'll make the first motion to instruct the staff to contact a consultant.
May I have a second, please?
Second.
Any further discussion on that topic? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. The motion carried. May I have the second motion, please, in connection with the chief spending authority?
I'll make a motion to increase the chief spending authority for this RFP to $10,000.
May I have a second, please? Any further discussion on that topic? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. The motion carried.
Sandy, I'm just looking at the calendar, they're based on how quickly we put this together and how quickly we need this information. Possibly a special board meeting the week of the 18th of May.
Okay.
You don't take action on it.
All right,
Looking at-
I'll be definitely
You
in
won't be
your,
available.
well, I'll be available. We just have to be cognizant of the time difference.
Do it Wednesday or something before, if you want to do it before you went to your.
Yeah.
Consultants.
If
Yeah,
the
I-
consultants can,
Yeah.
if the consultants can do it the
When
week
are you
before.
leaving?
I leave the 16th. Of May. Yes,
Okay, so maybe the week 11th,
that would be great.
okay, because we want to, if we truly want to look at the potential of we're going to.
The sooner we can do it, the better, and I'm sorry to
No,
have
that's
to light a fire under this.
Let's,
but I think it makes sense to do, so, no pun intended. Sorry. You know. Well, you're in the right place to have the fire put out, so. All right. We're good, we're good? Okay, we're good. Now, were there any other issues, that we
I
wanted to
actually have a
discuss?
question about what y'all
Just did.
just
Okay,
discussed. So the special meeting, will that be for us to vote on whether to proceed with a 2026 election? If they come back and say, yeah, we can do this.
I think it's, well, the special meeting is going to be for the consultant to come back and give us their advice and report with respect to whether or not.
Oh,
it's
at
legal
the special meeting.
At the special meeting.
Yeah.
Now, it's possible that at that special meeting, when we get that advice, if they say to us, yeah, but you better act fast, that we're going to want to say, okay, we agree, we do want to do it, or no, we don't, we want to do it in 27. So I think those two things probably go hand in hand, and so we probably ought to give ourselves room to make that decision at that meeting.
Say we should put it on the.
It'll be on the agenda.
on the agenda.
What were the agenda?
Yes.
Whether they tell us we can or can't, there's no reason we can't vote right then.
Sure,
Right,
We just put it on the agenda.
understood.
yeah, and I think, we're gonna probably want to do that, given that we're talking about something that we'd have to act quickly on.
Good.
Okay?
Okay.
Okay, so we'll put that on the agenda. Now, is there anything else that came out of the working session, board members, that you believe that we may need to either give direction to staff concerning, or that we want to discuss to vote on? No, okay. I'll move on next to item 7D, discussion action Ray wildfire accounting plan. And Ben, is this you again? Or is this?
Chief, you want to?
I'll introduce it.
Okay.
For the last several months, we've had discussion about how do we clearly separate our special funds that come in either through 1A funding or through special grants? And how do we account for those so they clearly are only go and only track to wildfire risk reduction projects? We've had different talks about how to do that. Budget committee met last month now.
Sorry, that long ago?
Yeah, that long ago. I think towards the end of March, when was there?
No.
It was probably early April,
Yeah.
and they are recommending, and Ryan and Scott can jump in on this, that we establish a completely separate fund. And then it's clearly separated from the general fund. Some of the reasons for that is to provide greater managerial control. Also, the ability for carryover from year to year, stay in that fund and not be intermingled with the general fund. If we go down this route, if you decide you want to go down this route, and Ben will talk about it here in a minute. One of the things we'll have to figure out is where that money is now and get it into that special fund. And there is quite a bit of money in there that in our general fund now, in those fund balances that you saw a little while ago, that is either 1A money or special grant money. Did I represent it correctly?
Yeah, I think one of the things that kind of sold me on wanting to have the special fund is not knowing how much, where the money was year to year that was carried over. And transparency, right, and not knowing exactly how much it was, and being able to figure that out and get it in there. So there's no question about it.
It also allows the wildland to do their own, or the fuels prevention to do their own budget each year, so they can show us what they're planning on doing through the year with their funds.
Ben?
I think you did a pretty good overview. I'd happily answer any questions you may have. I think one of the biggest differences, well, first of all, this has been driving me mad since I started. So I think this is going to give us some answers and get you, as a board, what you want. Moving away from just this 1A, right, I think is also a pretty, important step. What is it? Wildfire risk reduction fund. We're gonna have to think of an acronym like FIRE do for that. But we all know you love an acronym. But I think just being able to do that is gonna fit more in what you guys want to see as a board. So it was kind of all of our ideas, so I think it's great, but we'll answer any questions you may have. It will add, so you will now, from a board packet perspective, you will now have 2 balance sheets and 2 income statements. So there will be two more reports that you're gonna get to read, so the excitement, I'm sure, is very high about that. But 2 extra reports you'll get, but again, it will allow us to have that segregation between the 2.
And I think that's important.
Yeah.
So, I mean, just like you said, there's a lot of money in there, but we gotta find it, and that's,
Yeah.
for lack of a better word, that's crap in my book.
Yeah, I'm actually gonna maybe restate what the chief says here. He thinks there's a lot of money in there. We
Right.
still need to look, that you do have money on your balance sheet.
Right.
How much of that is associated with 1A? We still need to understand.
Well, I think, and from day one, we've been saying we really need to understand
Correct.
what that is, what those
Yeah.
numbers are, and to have it be very clear and transparent.
Yep.
The only question I have, you had mentioned, Chief, in the board book, that this would require increased staff and consultant time, which I don't think is necessarily a problem, unless you're saying that it's too much.
No, I
staff
think
and
it's
consultant.
fine, I mean, it's. You know,
It's pretty manageable.
It's pretty minimal, but it's there.
Okay, well, if it's minimal or manageable, then I think it's the right decision, because the transparency is, to me, a little more important than, especially if it's a minimal issue.
And any extra expenses that come about can come out of that fund, not out of our general fund.
Right, I mean, if it's expenses associated specifically with the management of the 1A funds, then it goes to,
And this allows us to have some of that allocation of expenses that really should have a split on allocation of how much really should be going to chief's time. Should 100% of the chief's time not, or should some of it go to 1A, 80-20 split, 90-10 split? So it allows us to kind of look at some of those allocation models as well. And to your point, we have been tracking it since we started, but you have an income statement on in your board packet that is grants and 1A. And this just goes a step further, in my opinion, because it now creates a separate fund with its own balance sheet, which shows how much of that money that's come from the income statement is appropriate for that fund.
well, it makes it more clear that, just every member of the community that may or may not be particularly skilled in reading these financial statements and
Yeah.
spreadsheets, and so it's something that it segregates it out, it makes it super clear, it's very obvious what it is, and pretty much anybody can follow along with it, so I like that.
So on that balance sheet, like the new balance sheet, would it show like if, like, say the chief was working on that? And a portion of that, it would say this amount came out for the chief's time, or would it not be that
So
far into it?
so what we're currently planning on doing is making a journal entry at the end of every month that moves the expenses that are applicable to wildfire risk reduction fund, and moving those expenses. So you wouldn't necessarily be able to see a specific, 90% of the chief's time, it wouldn't be that detailed. We'd be able to let you know, because that's how the journal entry would be booked. But from a public transparency perspective, they would just see the expense.
It would be just the bulk.
Yeah,
This
so it
month,
would be
we used
basically
this much.
personnel costs for
Yeah.
wildfire risk reduction fund was $15,000.
Okay.
One of
And
the,
it would show how much money came in and how much money came out specific to that.
one of the
So we're
things,
not getting at the level of people's timesheets,
No,
essentially, which
no,
is
we're not.
good, I don't think we need that level of detail.
one of the discussions that came up in that was bills.com. We run our bills.com through the office here, and the accounting firm has requested to run bills.com. And because we'll have to have 2 separate bills.com, one for the wildland risk reduction and then one for the general. The accounting firm would like to manage the bills.com for the wildland, and then that gives them us an opportunity to see what the difference would be and how that would work.
Okay,
If
Makes
we'd like to.
do we need do you need board action on that? I don't think you do.
I think it's all part of the overall
Part of the
budget
budget.
motion, but I'm not.
I think the motion should be something to the effect of authorizing staff to establish and the accountant establish the special wildfire risk reduction fund. And to report as necessary in the future of something. Excellent. Where do you go?
Yeah.
Let me see what I said.
Well, you have a motion, well, I've looked at this before we sent it up, motion to. Motion on the budget committee recommendation to establish a separate fund for dedicated wildfire risk reduction revenue and expenditures. Do we need to add something in there about the accounting firm managing it?
I mean, I guess it's up to you guys. I would argue this. Yeah.
Yeah,
I would say we do it that way.
Okay.
If there's any questions, just
Works
do
for
it.
me.
It's just adding a few words.
I'm pretty adamant that you have to approve us of setting up another bank account. That I am adamant about.
Well, it does
You guys.
stop our ability to monitor the bills.com or to
No.
approve it. You guys just input that so the information will be much more detailed.
It's still
Thank
your
you guys
money.
for
You
asking
still have to
for it.
approve it being paid.
Yeah.
okay. So how about this? I would like to, first of all, is there any further discussion on this topic before I suggest the motion? No. So the motion I would suggest be made is a motion to approve the budget committee recommendation to establish a separate fund for the dedicated wildfire risk reduction revenue and expenditures and management of that fund by the district's accounting firm.
I'll make a.
I'm gonna take John, because he's closest to my right ear, and then I will, Brian, make you
I'll
the
have to be
second.
second.
Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. All opposed, no. The motion carried.
Thank you. I'm actually really excited. Because I think this is what you've been asking for since
Yeah,
we started. So it's
since we started.
gonna be really good.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, so we're gonna turn now to item 8 on the agenda, the reports, and I'll turn first to Division Chief Landcamer. Community Risk Reduction Division.
Thank you. We'll start out with Logan in wildfire risk reduction education. He's completed 42 home assessments and 8 neighborhood assessments here to date. So again, we continue to see great interest in the work that he's doing. He's doing a great job doing it. He also attended the Colorado Fire Adapter Colorado Wildland Conference a couple weeks ago. And 2 of those days was doing the community wildfire mitigation best practices course. So that's something we identified as something to help us in learning and solidifying what we've been telling people, and I think we didn't are good to check that box, I guess. Logan's also been formally partnering with the Estes Valley Land or Estes Land Stewardship Association. Another acronym we have, ELSA, and working with the Watershed Coalition to have some joint drop-off days throughout the summer. Last year they did 1 event. This year we'll be doing 3. This is for pine needles, pine cones, noxious weeds separated from the needles and cones and paper bags. So the 3 dates, July 18th, August 15th, September 19th. 9 a.m. to noon each of those days. So that's a great program. Our community really takes advantage of it. So it's great to be partnering with that.
What is our portion of the partnering? Then what else does, do we put personnel or money? Or how does that? How is that? No, okay.
Yeah, that's part of the support that we give to the Watershed Coalition, as well as we've attended those events in person as well, some of those times. We've had ongoing discussions with Lumber County Office of Emergency Management, specifically with Josh Roberts. He's their mitigation coordinator, about partnering with them, with us, specifically to help provide financial support for existing or proposed projects in our district with 1A funds. We're working out the details. We'll present a formal proposal at the next board meeting. Josh is planning on coming to that meeting on June 1st. Really, they have a grant program that's been very successful, and we've had a lot of interest in Estes Valley. And not all those projects get funded, so we're looking at a way to stretch those dollars. And I appreciate Logan's ingenuity and conversation and finding ways to get that done. Doing a great job.
Thank you, Logan.
Thank you, Logan.
Captain Sutherland's working on that plan review experience with our new plan reviewer, Whitney. Providing comments from multiple projects. It seems to have gotten busy all of a sudden. A lot of stay in the hotel projects going on, new development plans, new short-term rentals. Again, that was a transition with the retirement of Joe Jaramello, but he's the new plan reviewer, so we're working out that relationship. And we are meeting next week with Laramie County to talk about a couple of things with them, workflow and one of those with your permits. She is also coordinating multiple special events. Elementary school career fair is this week, Wednesday, and then the safety fair is May 9th. So Stacy's been taking the lead on coordinating those events. Again, continuing inspections as needed, mostly on new construction special events. She has provided some training for auxiliary members for inspections on special events and tents. She's doing a ride-along program, so it's been encouraging any of the auxiliary that are interested to learn more about that. Next event is this weekend, which is the duck race, Ducky Derby Day. Captain Sutherland will be teaching the fire safety class for EVICS, Friends and Family Childcare Program. And she's also working on multiple special event permit reviews. I'm still working on agreements for the CWDG Thunder Mountain project. We've got a pending agreement with one of the property owners to start getting some work done there. We're partnering again with Watershed Coalition. We'll get an RFP out pretty soon, hopefully to get some of that work in motion. So we're working out the details between Forest Service, the private property owners, and the contractors. A lot more to come on that. Working on grant implementation and management again for the grants that we have outstanding. Getting ready to close out the 2023 co-swap. The fur worm is ongoing. And I believe one of those revenue sources was the fur worm grant that we got reimbursed for. Coming up on another request for reimbursement here pretty soon. And then again, 2023 CWDG Thunder Mountain 2025 co-swap is go. They're coming up for a site visit in May. They will be here June 22nd for an 8-week project up on Prospect Mountain, getting rid of more junipers. I also attended Fire Adapted Colorado Conference in Fort Collins for a couple of days last week. A lot of good presentations, but the one that really caught my attention was Dr. Jack Cohen's presentation talking about urban conflagrations and some of the myths about what starts buildings on fire. So it just reinforced that 90% of the structures that burn in wildland fires are started by embers, not by flame contact. So hardening the structure is critically important, as well as the mitigation around with the forest. So it's really good presentations. I've posted about the wildfire risk reduction project specialists, and that one's closed. They closed today, this morning at 8. And then the fire code inspector one will be out for a few more weeks. We're trying to work on setting up interviews. We got enough applicants for the project specialists, I believe, to interview. So we're working on setting those up. And then once we get through that process, we'll be looking at fire code inspector applications and get those interviews set up. So I'll keep you posted as that moves forward. I continue to attend partner meetings when I can, and Logan's been jumping in on some of those too. So that's been great. Keep those relationships building. There's a lot of talk, a lot of moving parts with wildfire right now. And just a reminder to put on your calendar, Letton counties can be hosting a 50-year commemoration of the Big Thompson flood on July 31st. This will be the 50th. They've sent out just kind of that save the date thing. It'll be down the hill somewhere. I'll keep you posted if there's interest in attending. I certainly will try to attend that. One thing from facilities, we're getting new countertops and faucets in the restrooms this week. So there will be some disruptions starting tomorrow morning. You know, wash your hands. Chris, we got that to move. That's all I got. Thank you.
Do we know where things stand with the wildfire resilience code that we, excuse me, resiliency code that we reviewed? I know it went to the town and they're undertaking their own review. Where does that stand?
Yeah, the town legal, and this is partly where some of the legal fees are going, are working on a cooperative agreement. And that's the next step. It should be coming up on the town board's agenda to ratify the code, and I have not heard yet if that's been scheduled. But the intent was they wanted the cooperative agreement to be kind of worked out so that could be part of the same meeting and not have a separate meeting in the fall.
Okay,
So right now, it's in the hands of the attorneys and I haven't received a draft back yet.
okay, hence our attorney budget is.
I'd have to look to tell you enough to interview. I think we'll interview 3 or 4. So, we haven't decided yet. Again, it's just close to that. First concept. Perfect.
So you'll be narrowing it down from some number to about 3 or 4.
What's the process for that hiring? Is that all internal?
Is that?
The process for that hiring, is that all internal with your department and the chief or
Oh,
how?
no, that was, we did that out at internal and external when we did our last meeting.
Oh, I mean.
Yeah.
The interviewing process and the hiring process. after.
Yeah, that was part of what we approved when we did the, job descriptions.
So, yeah.
It was internal and external. We didn't limit
The
it.
question answers.
Yes, the question's answered. Sorry, I was answering it since that was something that I was involved in, so. In the job description process at that meeting that we handled.
I
or we
remember
did
that. I
that.
just didn't remember the applicant process of the hiring.
Right, so we didn't change the rule where, so it did, the rule, the policy requires to do internal, external. We didn't approve a variance. We didn't want to do a variance because we wanted external candidates since we felt that that was going to be a position that required a lot of pretty specific kind of experiences that we likely needed to get from outside.
I was asked specifically to the interviewing process.
Yeah.
After
Oh.
the applicants come in, what is the process of interviewing? Who interviews and who makes decisions?
I
And
don't
how does that process break down?
Right now, my intent was obviously I would be a part of that process. Rebecca was gonna join us as another staff member. Logan will be working closely with this person, so we're gonna include him in the interviews, and then we're asked Willen Miller, who's a contractor with Essex Valley Watershed Coalition, to also help us interview. She's outside entity.
Okay, so there's one interview panel to make the decision? Okay.
Good.
Any other questions? Okay, so moving on to Justin, Operations and Training Division. Division Chief, Division Chief Kearney, I'm so happy to welcome you as your first board meeting. I think it's your first board meeting as Division Chief, so
Yes.
welcome, welcome.
Thank you. Happy to be here. I'll start with training. Over the last month, we've had 3 successful weeks of firefighter training. We did man versus machine, firefighter rescue and survival for several weeks. Had a good turnout of all those trainings, and those are the trainings that are hard work. So it's good to see the members showing up and putting in hard work to refine and keep those skills moving on. We have one new member that is now released to run calls and another member that's making the progress through the task book. This last week, yesterday, Lions and Hygiene Fire used our training center to refine their skills. So they had, I think they had seven different evolutions that they were running with live fire and search and stuff with our training center. So opening that up, have those outside guys come up and gals come up and train at our building is pretty neat, and building those relationships with some mutual aid departments, but they're a little bit further out. So last Saturday, they had a great turnout and a great time using our building. Over the last week, we've had 12 swimmers have completed the watermanship test. This is a required test every year to obtain your Swiftwater certification. The test, I went and watched for a little while. Holy moly. I'm not a swimmer, so watching them do it, it's a big thing. They have to do a 500-yard swim, 800-yard snorkel swim, 100-yard buddy tow, 15 minutes of treading water, and then dive down to 9 feet and pick up an object off the bottom of the pool. This year we did that at Eagle Rock School, so partnering with Eagle Rock, they let us come out there and use their pool for free, and they loved having us out there and I've never seen their pool, been there a million times on fire calls and didn't even know they had a swimming pool there. So for me, it was a good chance to go out there and pre-plan a little bit of what their buildings were. So It's been a good month of training. Operations, we're currently, hope to have a better understanding of the possibility of putting Starlink in our command vehicles, before the busy summer season starts. This will give our battalion officers and command officers, the ability to connect to CAD nodes, to make phone calls or whatever when we're out of service. Whether it's a down 34 or on a wildland fire. The goal right now would be at least put it in 3 of our rigs, with one of them being able to move it over to our brush truck. So if our brush truck goes out to a mutual aid fire, we have that connectivity to them if we need to talk to the officer in charge or whatever. So I think Starlink is the new thing. A lot of districts are switching over to that. We've called around and talked to several of them, and they're like, Starlink's the way to go. Don't go any other way. So I'm working on that with Lieutenant Harris. Coming up in May, we have I've scheduled a mutual aid meeting with our surrounding mutual aid departments, so Glen Haven, Pinewood, Big Elk, and Pounds Park. They're gonna come here, we're gonna have dinner and just talk before the busy season starts. And I think a lot of that conversation is gonna be based around run cards and who's coming for what. I think with internally, Chief Johns and I have talked about when we do get a structure fire, the threat of the structure fire spreading to the wildland is going to be probably more significant this year than years past. So making sure we have that help coming, maybe not bring in an engine or tender, but bring in a brush rig and brush gear to help us contain that before it gets out of hand. Chief Johns and I went last Friday to the Laramie County All Hazards Summit in Fort Collins. This is a local, state, federal agency meeting that we get together. It's my first one I've ever been to, so sit at the table with the sheriff of Laramie County. He said, "Oh, this is cool." Like to be at that level, right? That training, that gets a, it's a training. They had different speakers talk on all the different hazards of Laramie County. There was a refresher on polygons for evacuations, and Derek Rosenquist from Emergency Management talked on that. It was a good refresher for me to think about our polygons. So I came back and went through our stuff to make sure we do have to pull evacuations. I'm familiar with the sections and the polygons that are pre-built into our incident planning. We also had a briefing from the National Weather Service out of Boulder. The weather's not going to be favorable coming up. They talked about a little bit of rain, but nothing that's going to help us get out of the drought that we're in. El Nino's coming, but she also said that there's going to be more cloud cover, less precipitation, and possibly more lightning. So that's like the worst combination of all those things. So obviously there's
Sounds amazing.
Very bad news, but I mean, she was pretty honest with the group, and it's not a very good outlook for the weather coming. But she also made the comment that they are sometimes wrong, meteorologists, and you just never know. So, do you have anything to add on that meeting? We do have a training hopefully planned with the police department in the next month. I think Chief Stewart is hoping to put together evacuation training, and Chief Landcamer and I are going to be attending that meeting. We have a 4th of July planning meeting scheduled for this week. That's kind of up in the air on what's going to happen with the 4th of July fireworks show as well. This Wednesday, we're posting, or it'll be open posting for my old captain position. Captain Spears taking on the lead of making sure that process gets started. And we also unfortunately lost one of our lieutenants. We had to resign due to commitments outside of the fire district where he couldn't put the time forth that he needed. So he stepped away. So there'll be a captain and a lieutenant process starting here in the next couple of weeks. If there's any questions, if you have them.
I have a question. I think it's great that we have Lions coming up and using our training facilities. Our mutual aid companies that we have a mutual aid agreement with them, IGA. And in that, it's talks about liability, that they take on their own liability. So if we use another, I don't know if Lions, we don't have that agreement that I'm aware of with Lions. Do they sign a waiver, a liability waiver? or anything?
Yeah, so we have a form that they have to go through and fill out. We actually just made some changes to it. Captain Thomas and I did. There was some crazy language in there, so we went through and changed it to reflect. We want our mutual aid departments to come use our
Right,
facility. The language that was in there was making it really hard for them to come and even want to use it. So we made some minor edits to that, and we also require that anybody that is participating in the training sign a release of liability form that we keep on file for us, and it'll go into a file, so what takes us out of the liability of assuming getting hurt in our building, so.
Nice.
Any other questions, the vision chief done? Great report, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I really like how proactive you've been, like just deciding to go and make sure you refresh yourself on all the polygons. So, we're really excited to see you start and, get up to
We
speed.
don't have to use them, but I've
And I hope you
looked
don't
through
either.
them and.
I like the proactive, I like
Actually,
it.
breakdown of that meeting you guys went to a little better. Kind of giving us who you heard from, and what stuck out to you.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff, they talked. It was pretty neat because we all went around the room and then got to hear all the changes, like the national park firefighters are not national park firefighters anymore, they're the wild, I don't even know, they don't even know exactly what's going on.
Wild and federal.
Yeah, it was a good class. The sheriff is supposed to be sending out the PowerPoints that they presented. So if that's something you'd like to see, I can send you out.
Great, appreciate it.
Have not received it.
All right, any further questions? All right, so we'll move to the volunteer captain part report,
That's me.
All right.
Yes, I'm interested in for that.
Just
So,
get in for that.
so yeah, Chief Kearney asked me to kind of sit in as the volunteer. So just going over starting where we are with calls right now. This month so far to date, we run 46 calls this month. Up 2 calls from 44 calls last year. As of the whole year to date right now, from January 1st to today, we're at 233 calls. Up from 189 last year at the same time, so about a 25% increase in calls year to date. Month though is only 2, so I think a lot of those influx came, earlier in the year, not so much this month. We're still averaging about 8 to 10 members per call though, so our call response is pretty awesome. I'm happy with that. Our auxiliary members have been a huge asset to the department. Currently they're gonna be assisting Captain Sutherland at the safety fair with the smoke detector program that they're helping a lot with that, so she's kind of overseeing them there. We've had a crew that's been doing all the AEDs, not only in the station, but in the town. They're doing, just making sure they're in service, they're up to date, so on and so forth like that. I think they're working on preventions this week. Correctly. Cool. We have a crew of the auxiliary members working with the newcomers group in town. They're the ones that were graciously enough to supply all the hydrant markers we have. With the new water project going on in Carriage Hills, there is a lot more of a need for a lot more hydrant markers, and they are willing to step up and donate more. So about 60 more markers are coming for donation from the newcomers group at no expense to us. So as soon as those come in, the auxiliary members will be assembling those and be distributing out to all the naked hydrants, as they say. There have been, again, huge with station projects, getting us up to speed with all of our bunker gear, making sure we're not gonna be deficient there. They're still working on fit testing for a lot of the masks. We've got a few people left that's going to be fit tested. The list is several pages long of where they're at with the assistance to the department, so it's pretty awesome having those guys help us out. We had a pretty substantial call earlier in the month. We had a motor vehicle accident with some extrication down Highway 36, right by the road from the SS sign, vehicle about 40-50 feet off the road. We had to extricate a brake, cut a door off, bring it back up to the roadway. We had a pretty solid crew on scene, set up a 3-to-1 with a 3-to-1 rope rescue with a ladder ramp to get the patient back up into Stokes. Hand them off to EMS. They were transported to the hospital, pretty significant injuries. I never heard the final report, but stable in our lives still, so it was pretty significant for you to see pictures of that. It was unbelievable. The car was quite late. So that's about all I got from the membership, so.
Thank you. Any questions? Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Good report. All right, chief.
Okay, just a couple things. Thank you for all of you. Great report this month. Just a couple quick things, follow on some of the budget items from the budget committee we met earlier this month. One of the things, staff's working on, Miranda and Rebecca and John and Justin, is really starting to take a look at our first quarter expenses. Usually my usual practice in this kind of stuff is really to wait for the second quarter. Because it not happens a lot for first quarter, but we need to be watching close to big costs. You mentioned that we need to look at that as well as,
Doing the resiliency code.
yeah, and other items. But we may have some expenses coming up in the second quarter. We just talked about some. So we want to have a good idea on that, and then when the budget committee meets again in June, we'll have a good idea to report to them a little for the first quarter. And where there may be some savings, some opportunities for using some money in some different areas. Chief search going along. I gave everybody the brochure. We're into a week of the advertising now. I think you all know what's going on with it. Lots of updates. Make sure on your calendar you have June 17th and 18th. The 18th, which is Thursday, will be the long interview day. Each one of you will be on an interview panel. There'll be 5 interview panels. Because we don't want to get crossways with executive session issues. When you come in, you'll just come and go to your panel, be part of the interview, and then leave afterwards. So there's no chance of creating a meeting or an executive session. And on the evening of the 17th, which is the Wednesday before that, from 4 to 6, there'll be the community meet and greet. And we'll send out invitations for that, and that'll be here in the station. And some of you will participate in those kind of events before. The last thing is, and I think Justin and John touched on these, is wildfire risk reduction and wildfire response, emergency planning, preparedness planning, it's pretty much taken over all of our lives this year. So we're spending a lot of time on that, a lot of focus on it. I'm really great to hear the amount of time that Justin and his folks are putting in on as far as John and his folks. There's a couple meetings coming up with our law enforcement partners, and just on these items alone in the next few weeks to be your for the season. So that's all I've got to pass on. We're glad to have Rebecca started the last couple of weeks, and Miranda has been a super trooper, bringing her up to speed on a lot of stuff. As soon as we leave today, I'm gonna be getting with Rebecca, so we're doing an RFP on this consultant. I'll be out of town the rest of this week. John will be acting chief, and then next week I'll be gone a few days as well, and Justin will be acting chief. So if you need anything, get a hold of them.
All right, thank you. Any questions for Chief Jones? Okay. There is no unfinished at all business. Do any board members have any new business that they would like to state?
I do have something. Next year will be the fire department's 120th anniversary. And I would like to see if we could put on some kind of celebration. At least be thinking about that and put funds in our next budget for that. Maybe invite all past volunteer firefighters. Just bring everybody in here and have a good old time. So I would like to, I don't know, maybe the auxiliary could work on that, or somebody could work on that. That's just putting that together.
When is the anniversary?
It's next year.
Next year, but what month?
I think we became a district in January, so we don't want to do anything.
Really not January, well, it's sometime in.
But fire.
Okay.
Things in January.
Great idea.
But I think that it's 120th, maybe we ought to do something every 5 years. Like that, do a celebration every 5 years and bring people in, and it's good to see all the old firefighters, maybe one of them, but seeing people, and it's just a good time, and showing our respect for them.
I love this idea.
Town investors.
Yeah. I love this idea. Okay, so we'll add that to the agenda for our next meeting to make sure that gets into the budget or to discuss getting it into the. Any other items of new business? Okay, I'm gonna move and, well, I'll just go ahead. Announcements are in a strange place. I'm gonna move those to under the mini briefing, if y'all don't mind. We're gonna go now to turn now to Division Chief Kearney, who has a mini briefing for us.
Yeah, would you like me to stand up or can I sit down?
You can sit down, you can do whatever you like.
It's just weird to stand up and.
They just stand right there.
Right. So this month's mini briefing is on our structure fire response. So we have the purpose is to provide guidelines for responding to and mitigating structure fires. So this is really an SOG that we have built into our operating procedures. So it takes all the confusion out of when we're responding. I think we're responding to a confirmed structure fire. We're already amped up. This just helps guide the membership on what we need to be doing when we're going and when we get there. So our apparatus response, our first engine out is engine 71 for a structure fire, whether it's confirmed or not confirmed. Our second, depending on the location, our second unit is the ladder 71. This obviously the ladder truck can't get everywhere, but we try to get it as close as we can because it's our toolbox. The ladder has all the specialty stuff that we need. The engine does pretty good on that, but the ladder brings the majority of it. Third unit is either an additional engine or a tender, depending on if the area is hydrated or not. The tender would go before the next engine or vice versa. The engine could come if we have a hydrant in the area. And we do cover battalion every day of the week, 365 days a year. So our battalion officer, whether that's a volunteer officer or one of the paid staff, respond as well, or multiple paid staff. A reported working structure fire, it's a firm structure fire, takes a lot of people. So the more people we can get there, the better off we are. The expected actions by our first arriving unit, most of the time it's battalion or one of the chief officers gets on scene first. We request a windshield size up. It's kind of painting the picture for the rest of our responders to see what's going on from their eyes, but through the radio. So we have certain things that we want to talk about or hit in that windshield size up when we get on scene. The next thing is establishing and naming the incident command. Sounds weird that we name incident command, but if we have multiple calls go off at the same time and we're calling dispatch and we're saying command, then they're like, which one is it? If they don't know exactly. We do switch channels depending on the multiple calls, but it still gets confusing. So we try to name the incident command. The officer or battalion, when they first get on scene, they give the windshield size up and then they try to get out and get a 360 of the building. We want to see all four sides of the building, or 5 or 6, depending on the size of the building. But to see conditions in the front of the building, which we call the alpha side, might be different than the conditions on the back side. We could show up and we don't see anything on the alpha side, but we walk around the back side and there's fire coming out. So it's really important to get that 360 done, and then we report that to dispatch, and all of us are hearing that. Their job also is to determine if a water supply is needed. Our engine carries 750 gallons of water for fast attack, and it works really good. But 750 gallons of water goes really fast when we fight a fire. So determining where the hydrant is and if we need to grab that hydrant, if the first engine needs to grab the hydrant when they come in, or if the second engine can grab it. So that's one of the first arriving units' responsibilities. And then obviously adding additional alarm levels if needed. The alarm levels give us a second page and they get our mutual aid departments coming faster. We'd like to call help fast and we can always turn them around. They want to come and help us. So even if we call them and they get halfway here and we're like, oh, we don't need you, we can always send them back home. Life safety actions, obviously all these, so I'll go through them first. Attack line, the first engine's more than likely gonna be advancing attack line into the building or protecting exposures with the attack line. We wanna do a primary search and rescue if there is victims in the building. We want to ladder the structure. We try to ladder all sides of the building, so if we have our crews working inside and they get trapped some on a floor, we want to make sure we have egress for them to get out. So we try to ladder the building on all sides. Soften the building. This is something we talk about a lot. We do it up here on a commercial structure, but on residential, like softening the building to me is taking burglar bars off the windows and making sure, like, if we have to get out of the building, our firefighters aren't trying to come out a window that is blocked by something. So we try to soften the building. Another life safety action is ventilation. I think the best thing for anybody in the building is to ventilate it, get the smoke up out of there so we can see, makes our firefighters be able to search faster, and move through the building a lot quicker. Then we establish a RIT team, which is a rapid intervention team. So if one of our members, something happens to them, we establish a RIT team and they're the ones that'll go in and rescue our firefighters. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask or we'll talk about them at the end. Incident stabilization, I think that's our job when we get there. We got to try to take the chaos out of it so that establishing the water supply overhaul is something that happens when the fire is pretty much out. We try to we will check for hidden fires, trying to make it where we're not coming back to an additional structure fire because we didn't find all the hot spots. And that goes with checking for fire extension. We secure utilities and then we protect exposures. I think this is one of it's definitely not the coolest thing we do, but salvage is, in my mind, it's cool because we go in there and if we're flowing water in somebody's house in one bedroom, we try to protect everything else in the house. So that's throwing salvage covers down so all their personal belongings aren't getting wet, or a lot of times we move stuff out of the house so it's not getting ruined by smoke or water. It's definitely, we're not going to be moving stuff out while we're putting fire out, but it's something that comes in there really quick after we get the fire out. We personally in-house do not do arson investigation, but we have the resources with DFPC to get arson investigators up here. And I think they bring in anybody. If we have any fire that we want investigated, we call DFPC. Been a pretty good partner this last year. Seems like more so this last year using DFPC, and it's been good. They're well qualified investigators that come up and help us out. So we coordinate overhaul. That's where we're going to be peeling back the drywall and ceiling to make sure there's no fire extension. One of the other things that we have to consider is contacting the building department to if the building needs to be boarded off, or if it's unsafe to be in the building, then we get the building official involved in that. Then we assess the need for a board up company. Seems the last bullet point is there on this fire in particular, the hotel fire. We were pretty well into it, but we already had a board up company on that heard the call over Pulse Point and just showed up. It's like, hey, our company's ready to help. I'm like, oh, that's not me, you're the property owner. So more and more with the Pulse Point, it seems like we get those guys showing up rather quick. So radio benchmarks that we really try to hit, water on the fire is super important. I think we strive to stretch line and put the fire out as fast as we can. So hitting that benchmark is good, and making sure we're communicating that over the radio. Fire knockdown is also like a lost stop. Like there's no more loss going on in the building. We got the fire knockdown. We're in overhaul. Water supply established is Also, something that's good for everybody on the fire ground to hear is a radio benchmark, so. Especially if we have members operating inside of a structure fire, we want to make sure we have that water supply established. Primary search complete, utilities are secured, we really need to make sure that the utilities are secured before we start doing overhaul, because we don't want to be. Pulling down ceiling and getting into electrical of the residents without the electricity secured to the building, or same with the gas. With Excel. Secondary search complete, so on every structure fire, we do a primary search. Primary search is pretty fast, secondary search, we slow down, really search every nook and cranny of the residents, looking for anything that we might have missed on the primary search. Then we also do air monitoring. We have command benchmarks, so we do a 20-minute reports. This is kept by our dispatch center. So every 20 minutes, they'll get on the radio and tell us that we've been operating for 20 minutes. That really helps us if we're a long time into an incident. It makes us as command to think about our personnel, working 20 minutes in an air pack in hot conditions or smoky conditions. Like makes us think about recycling our guys out, getting them rehab or switching out bottles or all the important things to make sure we're taking care of our own. And it also tells us if we're 60 minutes in and we're not getting good water on the fire, it starts to make the command officer think about potential for collapse with the lightweight construction and all the important things that take care of our people. PAR checks. So this is a check that is a personal accountability record. So we check on PARs within each apparatus that shows up. They should tag in with the incident commander. So we have a baseline to know who is on the rig by name. And then we check PAR every so often just to make sure they're all still operating together and nobody's lost on the fire ground. And then a CAN report, which is our conditions, action, and need report. So this is something we would ask somebody that's operating inside of a structure fire, what their conditions are, what their actions are, and what their needs may be. That's it. Any questions?
Yeah, board of the company, they show up pretty quick, or this is their local company.
No, I believe they came from Fort Collins.
Right.
They're pretty good.
Yeah.
I guess so.
Sometimes there's multiple board of companies going up at the same time.
I guess they have Trevor's and
Fire company. Before we leave this, I think one of the things, and thank you, it was a great presentation.
That was a great report, I would say.
And all of the many versions are great.
Yeah, yeah.
Is that, from a policy perspective, this is structure fire are the lowest amount of things that we do of a job, but they have the greatest impact. That's what historically we're here for. That's why we got the big red trucks. That's why we have the fire hydrants. That's why we have the street standards. That's why we have the building codes. That's why we have the PPE. All that training that goes on, all this other stuff we do, wildfire, important, EMS important, rescue important, but the historical foundation of our service system. And I thank you for doing that. I think that was more.
That's very good briefing. Thank you. Okay, so I'm now moving back to 11 to just announcements. Our next regularly scheduled meeting is on Monday, June 1st, 2026 at 4:30 p.m. We did raise the possibility of a special meeting, although I think now it's probably unlikely because we gave you.
Well, you might.
Oh, we're gonna need to have it to have the report. So we, in all likelihood, hopefully the week of May 11th, gonna have a special meeting, something to hear the report of our consultant. So just keep that in mind and try to keep nice little blocks of time available on the week of the 11th of May. And I think unless anybody has anything else, I can, yes.
9th in Bond Park, there's going to be a low key, rain dance event, watch out. Well, on May 10th, I expect a lot of rain.
All right.
7 to 1, don't know if it'll march Rothschild, but she's putting it together so much.
All right, that sounds exciting. On May 9th.
Rain in the Rockies.
Rain in the Rockies. We can all show up and do our best version of rain dancing. All right, then may I have a motion to adjourn the meeting, please? And may I have a second, please? All in favor, say aye. All opposed, no. Motion carried. No meeting adjourned.
If anybody doesn't have their dinner solidified tonight, there is the spaghetti dinner across the street.